Kokoro Audio presents The Godsend Saga, Revolt Wargames Part One by S.S. Baines and S.R.D. Truelove. Performed and narrated by a full cast. The scent of iron hung heavy in the air, mingling with the acrid stench of smoke. Deep lacerations and scorched earth scarred the arena, a testament to the fierce battle that had just unfolded. Two lifeless carcasses were carted out of the arena to the cheers, hollers, and roars of a bloodthirsty mob. Though the bodies disappeared, their essence remained, staining the ground with crimson pools.
For the hundreds of thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, tonight, history will be forged. Prepare yourself to witness gods amongst men display power like you've never seen. There will be no mercy, only the pursuit of glory. It is time for your main event of the evening.
As a choir, the black faceless walls of the pit echoed back in a roar. Bright lights rained down from the blimps that circled the Tokyo night sky above in a stunning display. The synthetic rhythm of the final countdown by Europe drowned out the excitement as it began to fill the stadium. A song older than the building itself. The black walls and the screens upon the blimps above began to show the cinematic footage of beautiful, visceral violence. Bright lights began to shine from above, all converging on a single point and forming a shimmering hologram of the man set to make his entrance. A blood-spattered section of the sandstone wall at the base of the arena slid open with a mechanical groan, revealing the chiseled silhouette of a man with arms crossed, his stance exuding quiet authority. He stepped forward as the music began to crescendo, clad in plain black battlesuit shorts and a towel draped around his neck. A symphony of pyrotechnics erupted around the pit as a synthetic rhythm blared. Fireworks shot across the open night sky, and fire surrounded the arena, casting a red haze over the already explosive atmosphere. Unfazed, the stoic man calmly acknowledged the obscured but raucous crowd before continuing his measured advance. The pyrotechnics ceased, and a spotlight from the blimps above illuminated him, his youthful yet stony features stark in the harsh light. The cheering faded as he took his place in the center of the arena. Staring straight ahead, he slowly raised his arm, his fist balled. As he pumped his fist, the chorus blasted loudly, and the crowd surged back to life, chanting in unison with the song.
Please welcome your first finalist of the 2440 X1 tournament. Hailing from Niigata, Japan, he represents the faction of Creed. With his meteoric rise, he is the second-ranked gladiator in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, the Gladiator, Keizo Ikeda!
The announcer's voice rang through the pit as Keizo turned to bow in all four cardinal directions before taking a position opposite the sliding wall. He carried himself like an apex athlete at 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. Wiping his black hair from his forehead, he ran a hand through his stubble as he locked eyes with the entranceway, awaiting the appearance of his rival. The screens turned black, and the music faded, a hush blanketing the crowd behind the Gavantium walls. Tension lay thick in the air, until it was shattered by Superstar by Lupe Fiasco, to which the crowd exploded into chorus once more. A new hologram formed above the pit, displaying a tanned man with long white hair. Once again, the screens lit up with scenes of brutality as the entranceway opened, and fireworks erupted once again. The man walked out, adjusting his white leather jacket, which he wore atop a red and white full-body compression battlesuit with a lightning bolt insignia printed in the center of his chest. The pulsating flames surrounding the arena he walked into illuminated the glimmering title belt resting upon his shoulder, representing his status as the best in the world. His hair flowed in the open air as he absorbed the crowd's adulation. He pressed onward, egging the crowd on with casual waves of his hand, causing the decibel level to reach even higher heights. Also standing around 6 feet tall, His vivid yellow eyes locked with Keizo's brown ones. The middle of his fringe, loosely shaped like a bolt of lightning itself, fluttered between his eyes as the two competitors stood deathly still, sizing each other up, eyes not drifting for an instant.
And now, hailing from Kanagawa, Japan, he is the reigning and defending champion of the 2439 X1 tournament and a previous 4-time winner. The highest-ranked solo gladiator in all of War Games, representing the esteemed Red Dragon faction. He is the one, the only, Starbringer Kensei Hikari!
Breaking the stare down, Kensei took in the atmosphere. His fingers twitched in anticipation as he waited for the announcer's starter call. Both competitors removed their superfluous garments. Kensei tossed his jacket aside, revealing the winged dragon crest of Red Dragon on his back. Drones dropped in from the blimps above, collecting the discarded items and Kensei's title belt, which remained suspended above the pit on display.
This is War Games. The fight will conclude with only surrender or death. Without any further ado,
all the fans in attendance began to yell in unison once again.
Let the War Games begin!
Kensei and Keizo continued pushing the crowd to a fever pitch as the announcer's voice faded. The two of them circled the 150-meter-wide floor of the pit. From the exterior, the arena closely resembled the Colosseum of Rome, but on a much grander scale, dwarfing its Italian counterpart. They continued to walk as the crowd began to hush in anticipation of what was to come. Kensei stopped first, reaching his hand out to his side. His lips curled slightly into a faint smile.
Let's not tease them any further, eh, Keizo? Third Kanto.
Stormbreaker! Kensei's outstretched hand twitched as sparks began to fly. Forks of electricity snaked around his wrist, arm, and entire body until a jagged, pulsating shroud surrounded him. In response, Keizo widened his stance, stepped his right foot back, and raised his fists, ready to fight.
First Kanto, Iron Will!
Chunks of raw metal flew from Keizo's body, seeping from his skin in liquid form before solidifying and orbiting around him like satellites around a celestial body. Keizo took the first step, and Kensei followed suit, one stride at a time. Their steps turned brisk and continued to accelerate, sprinting head-on, ready to collide. The sparks on Kensei's body concentrated around his legs, accelerating his speed astronomically. The two of them closed in on the center of the arena, Kensei launching into the air, a lightning-covered fist cocked behind him. With eyes still locked, time slowed for the two gladiators as Kensei swung at Keizo. Keizo dropped his weight onto his right leg, contorting his body away from the punch while manipulating chunks of metal to close around his fist and drove it straight into Kensei's ribs. Kensei was sent flying from the sheer force of the blow, and Keizo leapt up to meet him, encasing his foot in metal before connecting with a brutal spinning push kick to Kensei's chest. Kensei crashed into the ground, skidding to a halt on his hands and feet. Before he could steady himself, Keizo had closed the distance on him and unloaded a barrage of metal-encased strikes. Forced to defend, Kensei used his lightning-enhanced speed to evade and create an opportunity for a counter. Keizo delivered a relentless onslaught of punches, kicks, and elbows, keeping the fight in close quarters. Struggling to find an opening, Keizo feinted with a low kick, creating a momentary gap in Kensei's defense. Seizing the opportunity, he struck, unleashing a punishing kick to Kensei's body, cracking his ribs. Kensei flinched slightly at the heavy impact. At this level of war games, such reactions only invite more aggression. Keizo quickly formed a makeshift baton in his hand. He struck Kensei's head with a powerful backhand swing, splitting his cheekbone and sending him crashing to the ground. Feeling the battle's momentum slipping from his grasp, Kensei launched himself backwards and away from another downward strike. He straightened his stance, a crimson mask forming over the right side of his face, the blood staining his white hair and running off his chin. Wiping his face to clear his vision, Kensei blinked just in time to spot a metal projectile hurtling towards him. Harnessing the lightning coursing through his body, he dodged to the side, watching the missile jet past. Keizo swiped his hand, launching more projectiles at Kensei, who deftly evaded them before charging to close the distance. Kensei unleashed a flurry of blows, and his superior speed became evident as a barrage of limbs connected heavily on Keizo. A devastating kick shattered Keizo's left arm, swiftly followed by an elbow that fractured his jaw. Through the haze of pain, Keizo motioned with his foot, hurling a metal block into Kensei's legs, sending him sprawling to the ground. Taking advantage of the brief respite, Keizo spat out a few loose teeth and considered taking the fight to the ground to submit his opponent. But he quickly dismissed the idea, aware of the danger of Kensei's lightning in close combat. Instead, he encased his foot in a metal boot and brought it down with a powerful stomp. Kensei rolled clear but could not regain his balance as Keizo launched a barrage of deformed cannonballs to chase him down. Speeding up further, he could avoid them, slipping in and out of range, gradually closing the distance as ballista clattered into the arena walls. Once in close, Kensei grabbed Keizo by the head and kneed him in the face, knocking him back. He then grabbed his hand, and it started to glow as streaks of lightning began to coalesce. He reared back and unleashed a lightning bolt at Keizo, hitting his already shattered arm and completely eviscerating it. Refusing to shrink back, Keizo swung his remaining arm into the air, conjuring a wall before him to block the next bolt from Kensei. Keizo summoned wall after wall, shielding himself as more bolts careened towards him. Keizo might have been on the back foot, but he wasn't out of the fight yet. As the second-ranked gladiator, he had convincingly defeated the third-ranked gladiator and a former X1 winner, Wolfgang Klein, in the semifinals. Now, he faced arguably the greatest gladiator of all time. Despite this, Keizo was the rising star, younger and hungrier than his decorated opponent. He also possessed something scarce amongst gladiators, a second godsend. Keizo continued erecting more barriers, absorbing the lightning strikes and biding his time. He knew Kensei would relent soon. He would be depleting his energy with futile attacks, or would have to change tactics. Just as Keizo predicted, the lightning ceased, with both of their lines of sight obscured by the metal barricades. Knowing this was his chance, he shattered all the walls instantly, turning them into crude metal shards before sending them hurtling towards his opponent. Kensei leapt into the air, avoiding the onslaught of makeshift bullets heading his way. With a cacophony of thuds, they all smashed into the arena wall behind him as 3 final projectiles flew at him. Kensei knocked the first away with a swipe, slipped past the second, and awaited the third, preparing to counterattack. As he ducked under the final projectile, he heard his opponent speak.
First Kanto, switch!
Kensei's eyes widened in realization as the last projectile clattered to the ground where Keizo had stood, just a fraction of a second before. The brief shock was instantly replaced by searing agony as Keizo, now behind him, slashed at Kensei's legs with a newly formed blade. Keizo then plunged the blade into Kensei's stomach just as he managed to turn around, sending him reeling backwards. The crowd around them exploded. The king of wargames was on the back foot. It was becoming clear that his reckless barrages of lightning had drained his stamina, preventing him from reaching his usual breakneck speeds. Keizo, the rising prince, stood tall above the king. But the king was a hardened warrior, and this was far from the first time he tasted his blood upon his lips. Kensei reoriented himself as Keizo rushed towards him, swinging his blade. Rolling out of the way, Kensei stood up shakily, the deep gashes on his legs adding to his struggle. Each step was a painful reminder of his injuries, making it increasingly difficult to maintain his balance. He stumbled, leaving himself wide open. A shark in the water. Keizo smelled blood, plunging the sword just below Kensei's ribcage. A stunned silence washed over the crowd. Even Keizo was taken aback. He had the greatest in the world skewered on the end of his sword, coughing up pools of blood. And his legs were failing him. And it couldn't have happened at a better time. Keizo felt himself slipping in and out of consciousness from overusing his godsend. He was at his limits, barely able to summon more metal. Activating his second godsend had thoroughly drained him. Keizo withdrew the sword, Yet Kensei remained standing, his knees quivering and blood pooling around him. Keizo gazed down upon him. It was his time. The changing of the guard. The passing of the torch. He drew the sword back and thrust forward with finality. Kensei's eyes came to life in an instant. He dropped his shoulder, the sword's deadly impact becoming a glancing blow. A guttural cry escaped Kensei's lips as he lunged forward. Wrapping himself around Keizo, he trapped Keizo's arm, head, and neck, squeezing with every ounce of energy, attempting to cut off circulation to Keizo's brain. Blindsided, Keizo dropped his sword. But Keizo was not about to give up that easily, not when he was so close to victory. He opened his hand, preparing to create any weapon to set himself free. Sensing this, Kensei let out another guttural scream as he unleashed the entirety of his reserve. A bolt of lightning left his chest and exploded through Keizo, ripping a hole into his torso. With his final, desperate effort, Kensei was left clutching tightly onto nothing more than a charred, smoking husk. Drained of strength, Kensei collapsed under Keizo's dead weight. The hollering of the bloodthirsty crowd began anew, their lust for violence now quenched. Kensei rolled Keizo's body off himself and got onto all fours. With as much effort as he could endure, he stood tall and raised a fist to the sky, soaking in the adulation cascading upon him as his theme music flooded the stadium. The championship belt in the grip of the drone descended to proclaim his dominance, cementing his status as king once again.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed history. Your back-to-back winner of the X1 tournament, Kensei Stormbringer Hikari of Red Dragon.
A hint of a smile curled at Kensei's lips as his eyes settled upon a section of the blacked-out walls. Behind him, he knew his young son and parents watched on. That smile was all he could muster before he sank to his knees. There was no doubt in his mind that Keizo Ikeda would soon ascend to the throne. But for now, the reign of Stormbringer endured.